Hey guys, today we're diving into a topic that's often overlooked in many debates and discussions, especially on Vsbattle wiki. The topic is, when are higher dimensions valid? Many people assume X structure is higher dimensional, and Y structure is higher dimensional, so it must be in a higher tier. But that's wrong. I'll explain why this assumption is incorrect and why it's not enough to qualify for a higher tier according to Vsbattle wiki's rules. So, let's get started. According to Vsbattle wiki, question when are higher dimensions valid, then, A. One of the more straightforward ways to qualify for tier 2 and above through higher dimensions is by affecting entire higher dimensional universes that can embed lower dimensional ones within themselves. For example, a cosmology where the entirety of our three-dimensional universe is a subset of a much greater four-dimensional space, or generalizations of this scenario to higher numbers of dimensions, i.e. a cosmology where the four-dimensional space-time continuum is just the infinitesimal surface of a five-dimensional object, etc. However, vaguer cases where a universe is merely stated to be higher dimensional, while existing in a scaling vacuum with no previously established relationship of superiority towards lower dimensional ones, or no evidence to infer such a relationship, should be analyzed more carefully. In such cases, where information about their exact nature and scale is scarce, it is preferable that the higher dimensions in question be fully sized in order to qualify. Furthermore, higher dimensional entities can also qualify for higher tiers when the verse they are from explicitly defines them as being infinitely above lower dimensional ones in power and/or existential status. An example of this can be seen in verses such as Yuminiko no Naku Koro Enai. However, simply stating that lower dimensional beings are flat compared to higher dimensional beings does not necessarily mean the latter have infinitely more power, for reasons outlined above. Thus, such scenarios must also be analyzed on a case-by-case basis. This emphasizes that simply proving X, or Y, is higher dimensional isn't enough to qualify for a higher tier unless that higher dimensional structure embeds the lower dimensional structure and/or is superior to the lower dimensions or is infinitely above them. To put it simply, higher dimensions are valid if 1. The higher dimensions are spatial and/or temporal, and you provide sufficient context to prove it. 2. The higher dimensions embed the lower dimensions. For example, our three-dimensional universe is a subset of a much greater four-dimensional space. Generalizations of this scenario to higher dimensions, e.g. a cosmology where the four-dimensional space-time continuum is just the infinitesimal surface of a five-dimensional object. 3. Each higher dimension is superior to the lower dimensions, or each higher dimension infinitely transcends the lower dimensions, or each higher dimension views the lower dimensions as mere fiction, etc. Note, if the higher dimension views the lower dimensions as fiction, it must be superior and transcendent. If it's simply stated that X views Y as fiction yet their existence level is the same or they exist in the same reality, it cannot be accepted as a higher tier. For more details, you can check out Vsbattle's a greater than F transcendence page. I'll give the link in the description box. Another thing is that Vsbattle made a greater than F, or so-called qualitative superiority, a 1A tier. Well, it depends. Not all are greater than F is 1A. Viewing something as fiction can either be scaled in a higher tier or as 1A. If X views Y as if it doesn't even exist, it can be 1A, but again, providing sufficient context to prove that is a must. Now that we understand this rule, let's explore which verses have valid higher dimensions. Yuminiko no Naku Koro Enai, or Yuminiko, When They Cry, is the perfect example of valid higher dimensions. In this series, each higher dimension or layer views the lower layers as fiction, qualifying them for higher tiers. Another verse that follows this structure is I Can Tell You What's Killing the Stars. In that verse, there are transfinite universes, and each universe perceives the one below it as mere fiction. Now, let's talk about a verse that is often misunderstood as having a greater than F transcendence or actual higher dimensions, Hoyoverse, especially Hunkai Impact and Hunkai Star Rail. There's a claim on Vsbattle that each dimension in Hoyoverse sees the lower ones as fiction, but this is completely false and overlooked. The skin used as evidence was actually referring to Himiko's father seeing Welt as a novel character, which was related to the alien key's power. This does not prove that each higher dimension transcends the lower ones and was taken out of context. It's not even related to each higher dimension being superior to lower dimensions. So yeah, Holoverse doesn't have a greater than F transcendence. It was misinterpreted and contradicted. In Holoverse dimensional scaling, there are tons of controversies, which is a pain in the ass, so let's not dive into it further. LOL. There are many more verses that have crazy dimensional scaling, like SCP Foundation and World of Darkness. Scaling them is a nightmare since it's just that complex. Alright, I'm heading out. See you again.